The man scores every single time. It never gets old. Defensive touchdown would be nice for the Ohio State Buckeyes on Saturday against the UC Bearcats. It would help them get to 2-0. I don't think UC could overcome that, but a lot of emotion on the Bearcats side coming in Saturday. Spiels with Luke Fickell as its head coach, as their head coach.
Marcus Freeman on the staff. I think John Tenuta's still on that staff down there. So I guarantee you these guys will be ready to play. And believe me, playing for Cincinnati and living under the shadow of Ohio State, do not underestimate the motivation for these kids and coaches coming up here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime shot for them, and they're going to make the most of it. I think we're going to have a really close game and a really good game, and I'm excited to see the offensive mind matchup of Ryan Day versus the defensive mind matchup of Luke Fickell.
Yeah, James Wiggins is out for the year for Cincinnati, one of their best defenders in the defensive backfield. That's a problem. They got a nice pass rush on UCLA. The question for me is, can UC run the ball a little bit, and can UC protect Desmond Ridder, its quarterback? It's a high order with Ohio State's defensive line.
Well, the defense, Ohio State's defense is light years above where they were at this time last year. And how they looked on Saturday was fun. It looked like guys weren't thinking. They were playing faster. I do think implementing some zone with some man. They still played some man coverage. Don't worry about it. But they did play a lot of zone. And zone allows defensive backs and linebackers to play faster, because when you play man versus zone, your first priority in man is play pass first, run second. In zone, you can play run first and pass second because you have more time to read and react.
All right, Luke Fickell has a chance to do something on Saturday that, in my mind, has not been done very often. This game reminds me a little bit of a game many years ago in the early 90s when Gary Blackney, who I believe was he your linebacker coach?
Defensive coordinator.
Yes.
Yes.
Gary Blackney brought the Bowling Green Falcons into Ohio Stadium, a team that was very successful the year before and returned most of its skill position talent, and he had Ohio State on the run until the Buckeyes pulled it out in the fourth quarter. But Gary Blackney, a former Ohio State assistant coach, did not win in Ohio Stadium. You and I were commiserating over the weekend on how many have, and we came up with, I think, 6.
6 that we know of.
That we know of, yes.
And I'd be happy to hear from any of our podcast listeners if they have any more. Gary Moeller.
There's one at Michigan.
Bill Mallory at Indiana.
Correct.
I was part of that loss. Thank you very much. I know you were going to bring it up, I brought it first.
Darkest day in Ohio State football history.
Nick Saban in 1998, and
Correct.
I still maintain that 98 team might have been the greatest team in Ohio State history. It's funny, though, how we forget the past as we move forward to all these great teams that Urban has brought, but that 98 team was just remarkable.
Winfield, Katzenmoor,
just
Wiley,
unbelievable.
Jermaine, D. Miller, Orlando. Orlando Pace.
You were covering for the Plain Dealer.
I was covering for the Plain Dealer, and that team was
amazing
juggernaut.
They were so good.
Up 24-9 in the fourth quarter at home against Michigan State after a Damon Moore pick 6.
Yeah.
And just imploded in the fourth quarter, jump ball after jump ball to Plaxico Burress, and they win it at the end, and that kept Ohio State out of the first BCS. It was BCS playoff. That was the year Tennessee won it, which I think was the last year Tennessee won anything.
So that's bad.
Anyway, I have a friend who's a Tennessee fan.
They're just not.
No longer
it's
listening
sad.
to the podcast.
There's nothing. I get no joy out of seeing the downfall and demise of Tennessee.
Georgia State beat Tennessee,
who was 2-10 last year. I watched some of that game, by the way.
Why?
And by the way, so who do I have? I have Moeller.
Yeah, Moeller.
From Michigan. Mallory.
Moeller,
former defensive captain at Ohio State.
Yes.
Saban, Mason.
If you got Moeller, you're missing the obvious one.
Bo.
Guy from your hometown.
Jeb Beckler. Yeah. No, he's from Barberton.
Home area.
Yeah. And of course, the one that I didn't get and that you reminded me, and again, it was Mark D'Antonio.
Mark D'Antonio. And another one is a guy who was on the coaching staff when you were playing, I believe. Was Glenn Mason on the staff?
I said Mace.
Okay.
I had 6.
Okay.
Moeller.
6. Those are our 6.
Mason, Shem Beckler, Mallory at Indiana, and D'Antonio.
So 2 at Michigan State, 2 at Michigan, Glenn Mason, and Bill Mallory.
Yes.
Those are the 6.
There you go.
Luke Fickell be the 7th. What would this win mean? Okay, so let's just go into Crazy Town right now. Let's turn on the natural gas here and get lightheaded and ask the question, what would it mean to Luke Fickell to win Saturday in Ohio State?
It would be everything.
Would it be bittersweet at all?
It would be everything on a sports perspective, career perspective, and for Luke, and just keeping things in proper context. But I think it would be the epitome of his coaching career to be able to do that. I really believe that. Now, he might not admit that, but I would be upset because I want Ohio State to win the national championship. I want them to fly through. I want them to get better. But I got to tell you, I'd be so happy for that guy, man. I would be so happy if Luke wins.
It would feel a lot like when Mason won here with Minnesota.
I bet you a lot of
2000.
people would be happy for Luke.
I think people would be
upset.
mad, and
Yeah.
then they'd say, if it had to happen, much like Bo Schembechler said after your win as a senior in Ann Arbor. Bo came into the Ohio State locker room, and he said to Earl, I hate losing.
Yeah.
If I had to lose to somebody, I'd rather it be you.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the case. I don't know if that's the case with Ryan. I don't know what kind of relationship Ryan Day and Luke Fickell have. I'm sure that's cordial. But I can tell you this, that Luke is a fierce competitor. And I know one thing. I would be shocked if Ohio State beats him by 3 touchdowns. I'd be shocked. And I'm terrible at setting lines and gaming. And
17 points is the early line.
I'd be shocked if Ohio State beats him by 17.
Really?
I think it's going to be a great game.
Okay.
I just got that feeling. I could be wrong. I just have that feeling.
There is no question that no one will be happy for Mike Vrabel outside of his own family if he spoils the coaching debut of Freddie Kitchens for the Cleveland Browns on Sunday in Cleveland Browns Stadium. But it is the same kind of a situation for Vrabes as he played at Walsh Jesuit as a Northeast Ohio guy. And he would dearly love to get into Browns Stadium and to get the W because Vrabes is... Well, I heard Stan Jackson, our former colleague this week, talking about the captains at Ohio State and how you don't have to be a captain to be a leader. And he said Mike Vrabel always said he was a leader on the team even though he wasn't a captain. And he said if Mike had been a nicer guy, I'll make it sound nicer than Stan did. If Mike had been a nicer guy, he might have been a captain at Ohio State. But Mike Vrabel has gone through life, and it's served him very well to have a chip on his shoulder. And I would think he'd definitely have one coming into the Browns Stadium because of his Northeast Ohio ties and because of the fact that everybody's talking about the Browns, even though they've never won anything.
Well, I think when you look at Mike, if Mike is who he is, I love the guy. I got along with him great. Now, fortunately, I didn't get to play with him. I would have loved to play with the guy, but Mike holds himself to a standard, and he held everybody else to a standard. And sometimes when you do that, you're not considered a nice guy. But Mike's intentions are, he's a competitor. He wants to win. He knows how to win. I remember Mike was being pegged for head coach 5 years ago. A lot of people were asking me about Mike and what kind of head coach do I think he would be. And I told him I think he'd be a great head coach because he does not care. He does not care about what people think. I think he'll have his team ready to go. And it's, the whole thing with the Browns and Titans, look, when you play a guy like Marcus Mariota, you got to be able to handle him. He can be really, really good or he can be bad, but Marcus can run the football. The one question we have is that Taylor Lewan, who's out, right, at right tackle.
Suspended.
How are you going to protect against Myles Garrett and anybody else that the Browns throw
Sheldon
out there?
Richardson, Olivier Vernon.
Olivier Vernon, yeah.
All right, so play offensive coordinator for me. You're the Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator. What are you doing to keep that Browns pass rush, which, again, it was preseason, but it looked pretty good against Tampa Bay?
First of all, you notice who's the immediate threat, right? And this is why John Dorsey gets it. You got it last year when you wanted to draft Bradley Chubb.
The edge rusher,
or,
yeah.
Was it Chubb?
Bradley Chubb, yes.
So he didn't have the edge rusher that he wanted opposite of Myles Garrett. So he goes out and gets Olivier Vernon. Olivier Vernon, quite frankly, got a big contract with the Giants and disappointed a lot of people with the Giants. So Dorsey swoops in, brings him in. Olivier Vernon looks tremendous in preseason. And so you're hoping that he's a huge threat off the other edge. Because what I would do is, first of all, I'm going to be a fool to start the game to see if whoever I got playing right tackle can handle Myles Garrett or whatever matchup they have one-on-one. If I can't handle them, there's things that you can do. It's including you can use a back to chip on your outside edge rusher to force him into the offensive tackle so the offensive tackle isn't constantly worried about getting beat by speed. Or two, you can have a tight end stay in and you can double team him. And so, but the problem that both those guys present and why you see pass rushers at such a premium And we see guys now in the league that are pass rushers. They're not 290 pounds, right? They're 250, 260.
Agile.
And they're screaming off the edge, man. And speed is just a threat that offensive linemen get really nervous about. So those are the couple things that you can do. You can chip them with the back, or you can keep a tight end and force them into the offensive tackle, so the offensive tackle doesn't have to cover as much ground when they're trying to block a speed rusher.
All right, with the Browns' corners, and they really like their corners, Denzel Ward and others, they want to play man. But against Tennessee with Marcus Mariota, if you were the Browns' defensive coordinator, would you play perhaps a little more zone than you'd like to play, just because Mariota running, to me, seems like one of the Titans' big weapons?
Yeah, it is. And here, a lot of defenses in the NFL do this. They'll play man on one side, and they'll play like a zone matchup on the other side. And so, look, Marcus Mariota understands that you're not going to make a living or beat teams by your quarterback running the football. Kyler Murray's not going to be able to do that. It's different than college. You're playing different athletes. You take bigger shots and bigger hits. And once you leave the pocket, remember, you're not afforded as many the same safety opportunities that you are you're within the pocket. So it doesn't. I think you play your defense. I do think there's certain defenses when you have your two inside pass rushers. You don't want them running free and creating certain lanes. You want them to be able to close and condense lanes by getting a power rush and almost extending their arms as they're pushing the offensive line back, keeping an eye on Marcus Mariota or any type of other quarterback that is a threat to run the football. Look, to me, I think the Browns have all the pieces in place. On paper, they're a really good football team. The biggest question mark you have about the Cleveland Browns, and I was up there this weekend doing the Browns and Lions preseason game and talked to a lot of Browns folks, and they asked me, what do I think? And I think this. I think that they're going to be fine. The only concern that I have is when chaos comes, and chaos hits every NFL locker room.
Define chaos.
Chaos could be by a number of injuries, right? Chaos can be players not happy with the amount of touches they get with the football. Chaos can become a fact when maybe the head coach and the quarterback aren't getting along. We saw that up in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. And so for me, I do think that if they can keep it together, and if Baker can not make emotional decisions but make common sense decisions and make decisions where he thinks about it, then I think the Browns can be really good. There's only one reason, it's my opinion, it's not a fact or anything, but I hear things and maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but it makes a lot of sense. There's one reason why Drew Stanton's on the roster.
Drew Stanton, the backup quarterback, very accomplished
13 years
in a lot of different places for the Browns. Yes.
Why is he on the roster?
I would hope it's to rein Baker Mayfield in sometimes and say, I love your enthusiasm stuff, but just dial it back a little bit.
I believe that Drew Stanton's on the roster because he's the only guy that Baker Mayfield listens to.
Okay.
So Drew Stanton will sit there and tell Baker Mayfield to shut up. Anybody else can tell Baker Mayfield to shut up. He won't listen to him.
You don't think he'd listen to Freddie Kitchens?
I think they can have personalities that can come together. But it's always good to have that mediator, right?
Particularly player to player.
Why else is Drew Stanton on the roster?
I
you
think
tell me Drew Stanton is better than Gilbert? No.
I think Drew Stanton's on the roster because your backup quarterback in the NFL. First of all, I agree with you. That's why he's on the roster. It's a big part of why he's on the roster. If he didn't, here's what I would say: if he didn't get along with Baker Mayfield, he'd be out of there. But you do need the ideal backup quarterback in the NFL is a guy who can step in without reps and win. And Drew Stanton has proven he can do that. Now, I'm not talking about step in and win and take you to the playoffs if Baker Mayfield tears an ACL. I'm talking about in a mid-game situation, got to have a guy for 2 weeks because our quarterback's dinged up. Drew Stanton's ideal for that.
I'm going to say this. I don't think if Baker, gosh forbid, I hope it doesn't happen. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I'm going to say Gilbert's in.
Wow. I disagree with that. I would have kept David Blau. I wouldn't have traded David Blau.
The only reason they traded David Blau is because they have to keep Drew Stanton on there to help Baker Mayfield grow and develop.
I'd have kept David Blau on the roster.
You would keep four quarterbacks on the roster?
Over Garrett Gilbert. I would have kept him over Garrett Gilbert.
I think Gilbert's better than Blau.
Okay.
I'm just telling you that if something would happen significant to Baker Mayfield, and he's saying he's going to miss 6 weeks, Gilbert's your quarterback with Cleveland Browns.
There are all kinds of weird things, and not weird, seemingly insignificant things that happen at the NFL cutdown day. This guy gets picked up here, he gets cut there, he's gone. I find this odd. Tell me if you find this odd. The Titans traded Tawan Taylor, a wide receiver, to the Browns on the 31st of August. I would not trade a guy to the team I'm playing.
I find that very odd.
A couple days before I play them.
I find that very odd.
I mean, what did you get for him? Like a 7th round pick or something?
I heard former general manager, I don't know if it was Bill Polian, although I don't know if Bill would make this mistake. The former general manager on NFL radio, and he was talking about that the one mistake he regrets is that he traded a guy to a team within his division, and he traded a guy that he was going to cut anyway, so he figured he'd get a draft pick for, or week before a game, and their team got destroyed. Their team got destroyed because he believes because of that trade, and that guy told that other team, and that other team was able to absorb the information, and they destroyed him. And the guy, the general manager said, "I'd never, ever, ever do that. I would never do that again if I ever had another opportunity to run a football team."
I just don't see the upside if you're not getting a significant pick, and you're not getting a significant pick for Tawan Taylor.
No.
Okay, while we're on the Browns, normally we do email at the end of the show, Spielman and Hooley podcast. No, Spielman Hooley podcast at gmail.com. You can always tweet questions at bhools, at Chris_Spielman. We love to get your thoughts on the podcast and to answer any questions you have. The motto we have is we tackle everything, so it can be football, it can be faith, it can be anything in between, raising teenage daughters, which Mr. Spielman and I are in the midst of.
It's exhausting.
But rewarding.
Yeah.
But rewarding.
Are we getting into that now, or are we still on the
we're going to get into the one email we have on the Browns. And then we're going to move on to some other things. And it is an email from Fred in Mansfield. He said, "Guys, do you believe the Browns will win the AFC North?"
No. Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're a hard kill. I think they're bitter from last year. I think they're anxious to prove anything wrong. And as much as he infuriates me at times, Ben Roethlisberger is as good as there is in the NFL at times. He really is. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be the favorites in the North. I want the Browns to win the AFC North.
I do too.
And I think the Bengals are going to struggle. And a team that every time you go to kick him or shoot him, put him out of his misery, and John Harbaugh, he brings them back.
I don't believe in Lamar Jackson as a sustainable quarterback in the NFL. I believe he can win games occasionally. I believe he'll have tremendous highlights. I just don't believe he's a sustainable winner in the NFL at this point. So no to the Ravens, no to the Bengals. I do not.
It's a great division.
I cannot embrace the Browns as the division winner, Fred, because sitting next to this gentleman, as I have for many years, I believe football is the ultimate team game, and I believe that the culture of a team matters. And no matter what he says, I do not believe Odell Beckham is a team guy first. I do not believe Jarvis Landry, though more of a team guy first than Odell Beckham, I do not believe he's a team guy first. I believe there are too many explosive egos. I believe Baker Mayfield still has a lot to learn off the field. I think he's got every tool to win and win big. But I believe he expends too much energy on things that don't factor into winning. Yeah. And so I think that this will be a year where the Browns will be appreciably better. They will not win the AFC North. I did not say they would not be a wild card team, because I think they have too much talent, and particularly on the defensive side, not to be a 9-win team and maybe a 10-win team. But my biggest question mark with the Cleveland Browns, besides locker room culture and chaos and all that stuff Chris referred to, is...
But it's not just Browns, right? It's every team goes through that. It's just how you handle it. Like the Patriots go through chaos when Josh Gordon gets suspended for the 500th time,
but they
bring him back again.
They have proven they have a culture to handle it.
Yes,
They have a established head coach and an established quarterback who can say knock it off, and everybody knocks it off. They are unproven in Cleveland in that area with Freddie Kitchens.
But they have a chance to prove it.
They have a chance to prove it, and Baker has so far been a guy who's more inflamed those situations by talking about Duke Johnson's money and some other things than a guy who shuts it down.
Daniel Brown?
Yeah, so they're...
Although he's taken out of context because of your former ilk.
Media ilk.
You're back to part of that media ilk.
I am, yeah. Okay, so I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Good job. No, I know
Here's
you
the
try
thing.
to do that.
I'll fill this in for you. If I'm Freddie Kitchens and I say, if we can kill all the egos inside here, if we can come together as one,
Boy,
if we can do this, we have a chance for greatness, and we have a chance to make a Super Bowl run. Really, if you take a survey around the league, talent-wise, Bruce, there's not much better talent-wise. You had Sheldon Richardson inside. Bring Olivia Vernon on the outside. The issue that needs improved is they were the 30th ranked defense in the league last year. 30th!
But the pass rush makes a huge difference in that.
They were still 30th in the league.
You're going to kill all the egos in that room. That's going to be like a Game
That's
of Thrones
how you kill the ego.
bloodletting.
We're talking about if Freddie went. I mean, there's times where you make winners feel like losers and losers feel like winners.
Yeah.
You want to kill the egos in those guys? You were 30th on defense. We're not winning anything being 30th on defense. And that's the motivation, I think. And so I'm excited to watch them because I think it's exciting. And more importantly, I'm excited for the Cleveland Browns fan. Being one growing up, I want to see them do well. I want to see them compete in the AFC. So, I know you are. But I thought you burned your...
Oh, I took the 7-mile walk of shame after Byner's fumble.
But
middle of winter,
are you
I
back?
just put my hard shoes on and off I went.
You
on
burned
a long
your Browns
walk,
fan
I said never again. But I'm like Sonny Corleone. They keep sucking me back in.
Are you back now?
I'm back.
All right,
I'm
good.
back. But my biggest question mark with the Browns, I just remembered it because I'm a pit bull. When I get a take, I won't let go of it. The health of Denzel Ward. I said they should draft Bradley Chubb because pass rushers have a longer shelf life than corners. His concussion issues last year and the fact that he missed a few games, I believe he is the fulcrum on their defensive side in the defensive backfield. And if Denzel Ward is not a guy who can play 15 games or more, that's a problem. Yeah. So that's where we are. And the other question I have is rookie kicker, rookie punter. The Scottish Hammer. You saw the Scottish Hammer made the team. I think the Scottish Hammer, Jamie Gillian, made the team based on one tackle. Of course, he punted well. Yeah. But you saw that, did you not, against the Lions?
It's an oxymoron. A physical corner and a physical kicker. So,
he's a different
it's a rare breed.
Yes, Scottish Hammer. All right. So there's our email, and there's our Browns take. Now, you want to do the Carly Lloyd question before we get into your deep question of the day?
Nah.
Okay. You don't want to do Carly Lloyd?
I'm starting to lose interest.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm starting to lose interest.
Do you believe? Here's my short Carly Lloyd thing. Nice field goal, 55 yards. You don't get 5 yards to run at the ball in the NFL. And I would worry about her safety if she ever got a kick blocked.
Yeah. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, no loss.
We're not against it, but we're just I doubt that it will happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening. But
okay. So you would
if
not,
it does, great. I'll watch it with interest.
Yes. You would not give me any advance notice on this other topic that you said you want to bring to the table.
So reading the book, and it asked this question: do you live your life as men? And this can apply to the women that listen to. Mm-hmm. But as men, since you and I are both men, and we're in a stage of life where, we've had careers, we're fathers, we raise girls, we like to serve God, we like to think that we do. But really ask yourself, do you live your life reactively or proactively? And I really ask myself that question. And I'm curious to how you would answer that. Bruce Lee, how do you answer that question?
In the last 6 months, I have committed myself to living proactively. By that I mean establishing a format, a prism through which I want to view things, and then hopefully committing to that. Now, it's a struggle for me because for most of my life, except for isolated periods of perhaps spiritual highs or crises where you go back to the things that you know where the answers are, I lived reactively, and I was far too reactive. I think living reactively is...
it's unavoidable, by the way.
It is unavoidable at times, and it is not as enriching a way for me to live my life. When I live proactively, my day starts with Bible study and prayer, and when I get off that, my day is... it's misordered, and I tend to find myself not having as much inner peace and not having as much of a measured approach to things. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does in a sense. And here's what I learned about myself. First of all, I say it's unavoidable as husbands and as fathers and as men. And we live reactively and we become slaves to our jobs because we have to. Because, in a sense, we are, for the most part, there are obviously exceptions, providers, right? And so, if we're not providing, it affects who we are as a man. It affects who we are as people.
No doubt.
And,
For me, it's definitely true.
And so, in being a father and a husband, everything is reactive because being a husband and a father, you want to take care of your family. You want to protect them. Any problems that come up, you immediately want to solve the problems. We oftentimes don't let the problems work themselves out. We want to go fix.
Yes.
And in order to live that life, you have to be reactive to every problem. But that reactive action that you take, that can consume you, and then you stop being proactive. You stop dictating circumstances, and when you're reactive, you have no control over the outcome all the time because you never are taking a chance within yourself.
For me, when I'm reactive, I'm not starting from the baseline of who I want to be and how I want to make decisions. If I'm just reactive, if I'm proactive, I am sort of rooted. One of my favorite verses and one of your favorite verses is 1 Corinthians 16, I think it's 17.
13 and 14.
Is it? Okay. The verse is stand firm. It's be on your
guard.
guard.
Believe me? Do you not believe me?
I believe you.
You
be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be strong. The end
courageous.
is do everything in love.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Be on your guard. Stand firm in your faith. Be a man of courage. Be a man of strength. And above all, do everything with love.
Okay,
that if we want to be accurate. Now,
well,
why would we want to be accurate with
the loose translation?
Why would we want to be accurate with the Bible?
Yeah.
So in order to live proactively, and this is a challenge to everybody listening out there, so you have to live proactively by serving God. By serving God, you're going to serve your family, you're going to serve others. And so you have to, whatever that may be. Now, seeing a homeless person on the street and giving them a McDonald's coupon as opposed to money. If you're opposed to giving a guy money, give him a McDonald's coupon. Drive around with $5 or $10
or take them to McDonald's,
or take them inside in a grocery store, all that, and just be proactive by being a good person. If you're doing the right thing or doing a good deed or whatever you want to define it. If you don't have a faith, it's fine. But if you're proactive, you then can control a lot of things in your life, and you're not a slave to reacting to everything that comes your way. And it's funny that we only react to the negative that hits us. And it gets exhausting as men and as husbands to live in a reactive manner constantly. So my wish for you is to make a conscious decision to be proactive in your life and what you do and how you live and what standards that you are setting.
So how
and
would
not
you
wait
tell
for
people,
something to happen?
A lot of people have enormous respect for you because of how you've modeled service throughout your life with the Stephanie Spielman Fund, how you and Steph reacted to that adversity in your life. So for someone, let's take it from a perspective of someone who doesn't have the same faith that we do, and they say, well, I'd still like to live proactively. What kind of advice would you give them that they would be able to do that?
You just have to open your eyes around you and within your community, and don't wait for somebody else to do something to have a positive impact on somebody's life. Like when we started the Spielman Fund, it was purely from a secular point of view. It's not, okay, this is a straight
ministry.
Yeah, ministry. It's not. It wasn't. It was a ministry for Steph and I, but it wasn't a ministry in its mission. Its mission was to help everybody, no matter where they are, no matter what they've done right or wrong in their lives. Anybody with cancer, we're here to help and to do the right thing for everybody involved. But it became something that we felt that God gave us and put us in a position to be in, to do something proactive. So that was taking a proactive measure without beating somebody over the head with a Bible, for example. So there's so many opportunities. All you have to do is open your eyes and look and see, okay, how can I be proactive in my life? Or how can I be proactive as a husband and father when you come home from work? Get off your phone and don't sit on the TV. Don't go stand at the TV. Be proactive in investing in your daughters or your sons. And what may seem stupid and ignorant comment that your daughters may make, but find it interesting and funny.
Yeah.
Or at least act like it's interesting and funny.
I have benefited greatly from my friendship with you, and I think one of the reasons why we get along. For me, you struggle with some of the same struggles I do, but you hold me accountable. You question me on things that I say, that I do.
Yeah.
You stretch me. And I think that's important for guys to live proactively, is have somebody
Yes.
that you can...
That's a great example.
Because look, I mean, my breaking news here, like, men don't think like women, and women don't think like men. Now, it's important to have communication with your wife. Very important to have communication. But you also sometimes can bounce things off of and get sound advice from someone who you have respect for.
The biggest thing I learned is that when I have issues or problems, I get the best advice that people that aren't emotionally invested. When I present the problem or issue to them, they give me a clear perspective with somebody, and you remove emotional. Like if with my wife Carrie now, if I got a problem and I take it to her, she's automatically going to take my side. Just like I would automatically take her side, or you automatically take Sherry's side, right? Our first is to protect. That's our first instinct.
Yes.
As opposed to going to get an outside view. That's why I believe in like counseling and stuff like that, because if you sit down, and I spoke to a counselor after Steph died for this first time I've ever said that, but I have. And the thing that I learned is that counselor has heard this story a million different times.
Right? And they're a professional counselor, so this is their specialty.
Right, it's their specialty, and so they're giving me advice not from an emotional side, but something that they can come at it